And David, whilst Joe is doing all that, do you want to give a quick plug for the Postal History Society of Canada and tell people how to get in touch with it and find out more?
Certainly. Postal History Society of Canada was established in the 70s, and we have the world's largest agglomeration of Canadian postal history information. We keep an ongoing and continuously updated database for uses of devices for all the post offices in the Canadas. Some provinces were deeper in than others, but effectively from sea to sea, we keep an updated database. And we publish the journal, which is usually 4 times a year. And the last couple of years, with the exception of last year with the pandemic, we've begun to run the PHSC Symposium, which we run in the summer. So we have nice weather for our events, and we can get out and see some interesting historical venues, which we've done. And anybody that's interested can get a hold of us online. It's Postal History Society of Canada, and you can get in touch with us there.
Okay, thank you. And Jane, I saw a hand pass in front of your camera. Are you?
Oh, by accident.
Oh.
But I noticed that Greg, and I didn't catch his last name, Bounds, had asked about using postal history and genealogy. And my mother, who's also a collector, an exhibitor, has an exhibit about a great uncle of hers who was a bit of a character, I guess, back at the turn of the last century. And he had a lady friend in Germany, and he was killed by a bear in British Columbia. And there's a whole bunch of correspondence going back and forth over all sorts of his different business dealings and family dealings over the years. So that's one way I've seen genealogy in philately. And also the National Archives has the database of postmasters from across Canada. And you can search it by location or name, and I always suggest that when people are looking for family history that they check that because they can sometimes find interesting bits of information about their family that way.
All right, thank you. And okay, I am now triple tasking. I've got the questions and answers open. I've got the chat answers, and I think we'll soon be out unmuted. So
everyone should be able to unmute themselves now, I think.
Okay, you can unmute. And are there any questions, comments that people? Sam, what are you showing us? Oh, you're muted.
I'm just taking a photo of the panels.
No.
So Don Hedger.
Hi, Don.
Yes, sir.
What's the weather like in France?
We can't hear you, Don.
Okay, I need the other microphone. Just hang on. I have a question.
Boy, you get around, Don.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question for Bob Gardner while we're waiting. You mentioned that you got some of your grandkids interested in the hobby.
Yes.
How did you do that? I have a lot of nephews and nieces. We don't have kids, but I have a very large extended family. And I have tried every one of them and every gender and every trick and every which way to get young kids into stamps. I have not succeeded with one.
I started with our 2 grandchildren in Ottawa at a very small scale. I asked them, what are the things that they might like to have pictures of, information on? And from that, I got from our granddaughter, who was about 6 then, that she liked ballerinas, birds, and butterflies. And that's where we started. And Mikey, who was about 5 at the time, said the same thing. What would you like? And he started with military, anything to do with the military, space. And so I just gave them a stock book, and I gave them tweezers or tongs and just sat down with them and started slowly. And then over about 2.5, 3 years, every time I would see them, I would give them another 10 stamps. And it got so that they were enjoying it, and Maya took it to school to do a presentation in her classroom. And it got so that if I gave them a stamp, they'd say, "Oh, I already got this one." And it just was slow, but it was good, and they're still doing it. In fact, we just sent them stamps for next week.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. It's a conundrum trying to get
Yeah.
kids interested in it.
Is indeed. Does anybody else have any, can be a brains trust. Anybody else got suggestions on how to get young kids interested in philately?
I know it's a problem, not just members of our families, but even in other groups. Ingo and I, and as well as Bob Thorne, have been running, not this last 2 years because of COVID, but we've been running a program at local schools. And we probably presented our program to, what, 500, 600, maybe 700 kids over a period of time. And I don't think any of them have become stamp collectors for some reason. I don't know. Is that about right, Ingo?
Well, we tried to get them to, come to the Bramalea Stamp Club.
Yeah.
But right away there, an evening meeting on a Tuesday night, how does a kid go to a suburban rec center to go to a stamp club where it's all old guys? It's just such a far-fetched thing. We tried a lot of different things. We gave away a lot of stamps. We, did PowerPoint presentations with colorful images and thematic topics that we thought the kids would like. We had some good participation, and the teachers we were dealing with were very supportive and had little stamp programs right in their classes, which we got to attend with them. And it was an enthusiastic thing for the event, but there was nothing lasting to it. It's just a very far-fetched thing for the kids to get involved with the hobby. And we don't really know how to continue that. The one big thing we tried to do was start a school stamp club, but it just never happened. There wasn't enough interest amongst the kids that we presented to get into it. There were a few collectors in the group, though. I remember there was one particular one who had his own albums and a relatively extensive collection for his age. But in terms of converting people who didn't know much about stamps, getting them turned on to maybe take up the hobby, even with all the giveaways we had, we struck out.
Yeah, one of the teachers actually wanted to start a stamp club, and he made the offer to the kids. It was going to be a lunchtime event, and the Bramalea Stamp Club said, "Yeah, we'll help where we can." And when he put the notice out, I think he got 2 kids interested, and he figured, 2 is better than nothing, but an awful lot of work for just two children. Now, mind you, the weather was good outside, so I'm sure the kids prefer to be outside than inside at lunchtime. But we'll see. I don't think we'll be able to do the program again till maybe next year at the school. But maybe things will change. I don't know. The other thing I just want to comment on, Bob suggested that the social interaction is a very big part of stamp collecting too. And I agree with that, because there's, I'm just looking at the people around the panel here, and there's a few of us that get together for coffee either every week or every once in a while. And it's just, it's not a stamp club meeting, it's just a meeting of people who happen to belong to stamp clubs, and we you know, interact. We've been fortunate since last March to be able to do it on the Zoom program, because we can't meet. So very definitely the social interaction is a very big part of it. That's all I have to say.
Ken, you had Ken Lemke, you had something you wanted to say?
Yes, the Hamilton Stamp Club has, for many years, we've been sponsoring five schools, and we feed them with a lot of stamps. And I think that while some of the kids hang around and some don't, I see somebody here saying, really what we're doing is planting the seed, because if you listen to most of our stories, they're similar. I started collecting stamps as a kid. I stopped when I went to university. I picked it back up. Then the kids came along. I got tired. And now I'm back in the hobby big time. And I think a lot of us have that same story, except for Jean. She's young.
I'm young.
Okay.
I know
Yeah.
Matthew made an interesting comment about social media and Instagram, and I do know that there's a big following of a lot of young people with stamp sites on YouTube and Instagram that is very involved. So it's something that a lot of you know, established stamp collectors aren't very familiar with. But there's a lot of people sharing on Instagram and a lot of people on YouTube.
I've made a ton of new contacts through Facebook Messenger, and because there's a ton of Facebook groups out there, like people who collect covers and exchange. So I've made friends with like people all over the world, because I'm chasing down COVID related stuff. And people are feeding me, like telling me about issues from everywhere. And it's all like, it's Facebook Messenger and Instagram. So I think, you know, everything's kind of moved online into those sorts of areas.
Yeah, Facebook is more for established philatelists and maybe an older crowd. But Instagram has a lot of young kids there. I actually started an Instagram account called Just Beautiful Stamps, and I post one stamp a day that I consider beautiful, and 42 followers. And it's a mixed bag, but there's a whole bunch of young kids and people just beginning, or people that are doing post crossing, which is like a postcard exchange club, which also gets people into stamps. So yeah, Instagram is one of the good ones to get the attention to.
When you say older, Ingo, like on Facebook, I think there's a lot of people in the sort of 20 to 40 age range, which is, you know, it's still young. It's young.
That describes most
Yeah,
of
no,
us.
that is. I don't see them. I'm on Facebook a lot. I don't see that age group in the stamp clubs that I'm on Facebook.
I would say that's the majority of the new contacts that I've made through like cover collectors and cover exchange. And I joined like an Asian cover circuit group. Like it's you know, it's like a chain letter, but you send covers. And I'd say most of those people are probably young, like in their 30s to 40s maybe.
Jean, can you relate this to the fact that people comment that nobody gets mail with stamps on anymore? So you're getting all this feedback about interruptions due to COVID to a mail system that other people are saying nobody uses. So what are the sort of people you're getting in contact with?
So there's a lot of groups on Facebook that are like, there's one group called Cover Collectors, and there's another group which has a very similar name. I think it's maybe it's cover collector without the S, which I didn't realize it because I belong to one and not the other. But there's lots of people that have, you know, a big circle of friends, and they just, whenever their country comes up with a new issue, they'll mail out covers to all of their contacts. And so they do all these, like there's people that collect, they don't collect mint stamps, they collect covers, and they're all philatelic, but they're all really attractive. I mean, they, you know, they make these nice covers to send to each other. And that's how a lot of people are collecting nowadays. They're not, you know, because anybody can just go to the post office and buy a mint stamp. But what they like are the stamps mailed on a cover with the first day cancel, you know, and a receiver cancel, so that they can show when it was mailed and when they got it. And they keep albums with all these nice covers in them.
Ken, you wanted to say something again?
I was going to say, Gene, what you're saying is extremely interesting. Why don't you write up something for the Canadian Stamp News about what you're doing in some of the groups? And you're talking about things I've never heard of.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, hold on one second. I'm just going to grab a cover to show you.
Ken, just to add to this, if you're Chinese, you join chat groups, WeChat groups.
But
And
I'm
those
not
are like
Chinese.
500 collectors, 500 collectors that you collect. You know, I belong to 4 of those. I'm in I'm in connection with like a couple of thousand, and a lot of them are young.
So I joined a Japanese, like an Asian collector circuit, and Japan has these beautiful pictorial cancels, they're first day cancels. And so I'll get just a random cover in the mail. Like, so this is one that I got, and it has a page inside that has a list of 4 or 5 names, and I'm supposed to send a cover to the next person on the list. So here's another one. This is a Christmas one. They're just gorgeous. I love these Japanese cancels.
They are beautiful.
Yeah.
And then this is one I got, this was a first day for the Chinese New Year. This is from China. So, I mean, so, you know, I'm not a big cover collector, but I like these sorts of things. And I've started, like, I think people sort of accidentally wander into different collecting areas too, right? You see something that you like and you think, oh, that's kind of cool. And then so you start to dig a little more into it. I never set out to collect these, but people were posting pictures of covers like this on Facebook. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. How can I get one? So I found out about this Asian collector circuit, and I applied, and, you know, so anybody can join. You just have to kind of dig a little bit to find these groups.
All right.
Yeah,
Bob,
because I haven't.
No? Bob, were you trying to get in and say something more?
No, I wasn't, other than I was impressed with what Gene was showing us.
Yeah.
A question to Bob.
Yeah.
His point 4. Do you think money would be the motivator for young kids?
No, I don't. It's interesting that when I was a kid, in my hometown, when I was 12 years old, I used to go around shovel driveways, and a woman on the block who was a fabulous collector decided she would pay me in stamps and not money. And I was happy. I was very happy, because that's how I started my collection. I had thousands of stamps from her. I shoveled her walkway for 3 years. It was great. Money wasn't an issue. Stamps were.
Are there any dealers on tonight? Anybody who does deal? Well, see, that kind of tells you something.
Yeah.
I think Bob also raises another point with the pecuniary advantage, is the number of stories related to philately that you get in the mainstream media, which are about the amount of money paid for high price stamps, or the dream of somebody finding a very rare stamp, which they can then, you know, sell for $1,000. I think, you know, although we may not make money from it, that sort of dream and association with money is sort of part of the reason that philately is more publicized than a lot of other hobbies. Sam, you were nodding your head to that, so.
Well, you have the Antique Roadshow. That's proof. Chris, Fred has his hand up.
Oh, I missed you.
Yeah, I'm new to this discussion. I'm a first timer. I'm from North Carolina, but I'm a Canadian. I grew up in Sarnia, Ontario. So, David, I knew you mentioned something about that, but went to Queen's University in Kingston before coming to the U.S. And
Why are you down in the US?
I've been here since 1976. I came on scholarship to graduate school in pharmacology and have stayed ever since. But I reconnected with my stamp life 2 years ago through genealogy. And I thought this is an excellent way to reconnect with family. My great grandmother, or great grandfather, was the postmaster in Western Quebec in a little rural town on north side of the Ottawa River in Quebec, on the Pontiac Pacific Railway. And I've begun a postal exhibit, history exhibit of stuff I've inherited from this collection, which all ran through this post office between about 1870 and 1925.
Wow.
And in that time, the railroad came through and it totally transformed that community from being a backwoods lumbering place to actually a quite vibrant exporting agricultural community. So I'm working on that right now, and I'm very interested in it. It drew me into the history. The family drew me into the stamps, which have drawn me into the history of the family. And so I'm hoping to show this someday, but I'm a novice, so I'm very eager to learn from a community of Canadians, and I'm down here in North Carolina where there are not a lot of Canadian stamp collectors, for sure.
Oh, I could say, have we got the stamp panel for you coming up on November?
So I've got this. I took the course from the American Philatelic Society on exhibiting, which was excellent, and I'm working my work and hoping. I see that there's a big Canadian show in Toronto in 2022 that features one frame exhibits. I figure this would be a good one for that, and try to work it up for that. I've got my family involved now. They're all looking around in their attics for extra philatelic material from old family members from 130 years ago. And it's kind of energized people. They've gotten very interested in it. So I guess my comment would be that the connection between genealogy and re-engaging people in philately is very powerful. And especially if you have a family member who is a former postmaster. My great-grandfather was the postmaster, my great-grandmother and my grandfather, and they ran this post office in rural Quebec for 55 years, and it no longer exists. The town doesn't even exist anymore.
Fred, what was the name of the post office?
Wyman, Quebec.
Can you spell it for me?
WYAMAN. But it was known as, it had three names. It started as it was before Wyman, it was Billerica. And prior to that it was Woburn, and it was named after a community in Massachusetts where the settlers from that part of Quebec had come from. They're all part of the Philemon Wright kind of family up there.
I'm actually on Library Archives Canada website right here in Pontiac, Quebec.
Yeah, if you look up Woburn, Quebec, and I've done this on with that website, and you'll see my grandfather James Pritchard there. He became postmaster in 1875, I believe.
He became postmaster on June 22nd of 1883.
83, that's right. That's
According
right.
to Library Archives Canada, and he was postmaster through 89.
Yeah, and he died suddenly, or died from a renal disease, and his wife took over as postmistress, and then and then the post office changed to Billerica because they had another post office in Quebec called Woburn, and they couldn't have two Woburns, so one had to change. So they changed to Billerica, which was a town in Massachusetts near Woburn. And the guy who created the community was a guy named Joseph Wyman, who actually established the mail service from Aylmer up through that line, and he's a relative of mine.
Okay. David, can you tell us what site have you suddenly got onto so you can spread all this information in about 10 seconds after he made his comment?
The Library Archives Canada website.
Yeah, it's very good.
If you Google LAC, Library Archives Canada, Postmasters, and follow the links, it comes up.
It's
They're good, but they're limited to.
Okay.
the
I am
information
trying
after
to
it
tell
is
who is getting restless and who is trying to get my attention. But John Byrne, were you trying to say something? No? Okay, Don.
Yeah, my microphone working all right now?
Yep.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I got a couple of kids next door here, a couple of doors away that play baseball with and throw a basketball around with. And I had put up a bird feeder. And so they came over and they said, geez, that's great. I really like all the birds that are coming over here. And I said, oh, you're interested in birds, are you? He says, one kid says, yeah. He says, you know that there's so many hundreds of different types of birds up here, but only live in Ontario and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I said, geez, I said, do you collect stamps? He says, no, don't collect stamps. So I went upstairs and I got about 24, a lot of stuff. And I said, any of these birds from Canada? Oh, he says, that one is. Oh, those are from down in the south. They're from Jamaica and down South America. Oh, geez. I said, well, are you interested in those? He said, yeah. I says, well, okay. So put these things away in a proper way. You don't go and stick them because they're never hinged, and you do this and you do that, and I want you to tell me the story about these birds because I got to do an exhibit. He says, whoa, what do you do? So I gave him the old postcards and Vimy Ridge and showed him the stuff. Now the kid's coming over here almost daily. What do you got in the mail? What's in the mail? I said, oh no, those are just, there's no stamps on those. Here's some more stamps. But I said, I want to know what's going on with these stamps. I want to know all the types of birds on this thing. And now they got his son, his brother's a little older. He says, you got any stamps with airplanes on it? I says, why, do you want some covers? I says, Christ, I got covers here from all over the place. They're all kinds, they're signed by people. He said, oh, geez. But I said, I want you to do some research. I want you to take a look. That's an F-86. That's a de Havilland Buffalo CF-5. And I said, I want you to do this and that, and then come back and tell me, and then I get some more for you. Boy, and I'll tell you one thing, are they interested now? And they come back, I gave them one stamp. I says, geez, I got this old Army tank stamp here. I said, tell me, do some research on that. I said, I want to know what year it was made, printed. So now, and I says, if you need a microscope, I says, I got one here you can plug into your computer. The kid comes back and he says, 1935. Wow, is that small writing? I said, well, now you're into stamp collecting, boys and girls. And now they're hooked. They're hooked.
Well, that's great.
So you got to go out this physically meeting the people. It's all right. Yeah, sure. All the media, this and that, send this, send that, and everything else. And oh yeah, that site's good, and so on and so forth. But when you can see the picture and you understand what it is all about, it's, there it is. And you put the seed there, and what do you like? Oh, he's talking, gee, do they have stamps with basketball? This kid, for crying out loud, I think he's only about 4 feet high, and he can shoot a basket 30, 40 feet away. I'll tell you one thing, when this kid grows up, and I says, why don't you collect basketball stamps? Do they have some? I said, yeah, you want a whole pile of American ones? I can give you all kinds. But that's the thing, like, when you have to interact with somebody, you can stand up and request or ask somebody what would they like to do. Nobody wants to put their hand up, but if you see something, somebody says, geez, I want to be a nurse. Oh, do you know all about blood? Oh, here's da-da-da-da. There you go.
Fits in with a comment.
You know what I mean, Sam?
In terms of, it's talking about the people aspect, because Phillips put a comment up saying there was a former member of our club who was all about money. He left the club a year or two ago. So is Philip on the screen or the other screen?
There.
There's Philip.
Yep, there it is.
Hi, you're muted, but do you want to add anything to that comment? I found you.
Okay. He was a nice chap, a teenager. And he was part of I think it was the West Toronto Club, but I may be mistaken on that. Yeah, he got into the specialties, the crack plates and that kind of stuff on the early Canadian stuff. And for him, he would look on eBay to see if he could find a variety, and then once he'd get it, he then list it for a higher price. And I don't know how he made out, but when he came to the club, it was obviously all it was about money, and not all of us are in the club or specialists, so we didn't buy. So I kind of think he left on account because we weren't buying the stuff from him. That's about the only thing I can say about that.
He still writes in the Canadian, in the Royal Philatelic magazine. I think we see his articles there quite often.
Yeah, once in a while you get him in there. Yeah.
An excellent writer.
Okay, what's the name we should look for?
Sid, are you not talking about
Joseph Perrone?
Joseph Perrone?
He writes in the Royal Philatelic magazine. He's been writing quite often. I think he's got a lot of interest, and he was mentored by one of our members, and he really is into trying to sort of use the knowledge that he has to acquire and to learn more. And I think he really is a philatelist who will stay with us in the long run. He may have not found the local club as a place where he can sort of practice what he knows, but for sure I would think that he's probably hooked into some of the websites and other sort of avenues that he can learn from.
He's also a panelist in our youth panel that's coming up in the fall.
He's a fine philatelist, actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
David Webb, I thought you had your hand up. It turns out to be my hand on your screen.
No, I did have my hand up.
Aha.
I, first of all, appreciate both what Sam and David have spoken about this evening, especially David at the moment. And it's got to
What
do
have
with...
I done here? I've lost everybody.
We can see you.
Sorry about that. I forgot it wasn't muted. Please mute me till I figure out what I've done.
My thoughts have been around the social connection. And it's not just, I would say, regarding the COVID situation and our isolation and so on. I have a passion for this hobby and this interest, philately, and I have my own specialized areas of interest, as do we all. I think I've come into the hobby and the interest as most of us have done. Especially David has revitalized my thoughts about how I came into it. And really, I have moved to Vancouver Island. I wouldn't say I'm in an isolated community, but I'm in an area that's quite different than the city of Vancouver, or as some of you may experience, I think, in Eastern Canada, Toronto, Montreal, and so on. But I've come to an area that is smaller. There are clubs distanced from where I live. I've wanted to get connected with others. And I must say that COVID, the situation with the circumstances that COVID have brought about, I think Zoom has brought a lot to me, most recently. That is our opportunity to meet like this. But what I want to get to is I'd like to get out of my small box. You know, I want to share more of what I learned and what I enjoy about this hobby. I won't say I know it all. I don't. I don't want to say I'm elitist or a snob. I'm not. But I do enjoy good material. I have discovered many avenues that I would want to pursue in this hobby. So many. I convinced myself at the beginning of this, which I became interested again in collecting and philately about 15 years ago when I was tired and I would say stressed from my business. I found great relief from this, from that in this hobby, amongst other things. I found a way to balance my life, and this philately has expanded my opportunities to balance out my life. But what I want to do now, because yes, thank you, Ken, I will get to this, is to open up my life more in this particular area I'm interested in my community. How do I expand from an area where I am somewhat isolated? There are clubs, but I mean, we're talking about a great travel distance. How do I maybe create something in my community? And I speak of maybe a 50 to 100 kilometer radius. How do I open up and become more socialized with others that would have an interest in this? How do I find avenues to find others and to connect with others, to socialize as David has expressed it tonight? I'm looking for ways. I do find Zoom now is an exciting opportunity. So where do I go from here is sort of my question, the long way around.
Ken, it looks like you have a response. Oh, Ken, you're muted. There you go.
Most communities have a small newspaper and they're always looking for articles. Why not write about your passion, see if there's other people in your area, and maybe you can form a club of 5 to 10 people, and you never know where it grows. It's like the old seed. You got to plant it before it to flourish. And one of the things, you know, for people who know me, I'm very involved in the organization side of philately. And I encourage people, you know, much as you can socialize with people at a club meeting, but volunteer to help out a club. Volunteer to help with, you know, setting up a speaker. I think that one of the things I know as a kid I loved was the Hamilton Spectator had a stamp column. I loved it. I used to cut it out and save it. We don't have that anymore. I think that's something we could start to get back to. But one of the things is get involved in the hobby, not just the social aspect. Get involved as a volunteer. And in your case, David, stir the pot in your community. See what you can get to go.
Can I add something to that, folks?
Yeah.
Ken, agree with everything you've said. I want to just take this one half step further for you, Dave. Encourage you to attend shows, a show even. You know, I don't know how many shows you typically go to a year. I know it's a little harder on the West Coast. We're kind of fortunate in Toronto because they especially as the hobby gets smaller, the shows tend to end up around here. But try and go to your way to pick one that you go to and take in the events, the talks, the speakers, the exhibits. Ottawa, I can't say enough good about that show. We when we put Symposium together, we tried to emulate it. It's not long enough. We don't have long enough. I don't have enough time to see all the exhibits, all the work people have put into that, all the research they've put into it. Go see all the dealers and see my friends. That thing could be a week long. So I really encourage you to bite the bullet and try that at some point, Dave.
Okay, Jean, I see a hand.
So I agree with both of the previous speakers, especially David, and going to shows. I've had a lot of time living in places that don't have clubs. The other thing that you could try, if there's a local library, sometimes they, and of course COVID is not the time to be doing this, but sometimes they have a meeting room where you can use. Sometimes there's, I don't know if there's a charge for it or not. A lot of places there isn't. And the local libraries like to have things going on that bring people to the library. So they will probably help promote things going on, and don't limit it to just stamp collectors, at least initially. Look at postcard collectors and coin collectors as well, because how many of us can say, well, yes, I'm a philatelist, but I've got a pile of postcards too. And I'm sure that a lot of the postcard people and coin people are the same way. So that would be my suggestion for trying to find like-minded people.
That's great. Jean, did you? Yes, you had your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention there's an article. So I don't know how many of you guys are members of the American Philatelic Society, but in the February issue of the American Philatelist, and these were available for free for a while earlier in the pandemic, so I don't know if they're still available for free, but there's an excellent article by Peter Congreve called The Philatelist as Social Historian, and what he does is he takes a cover and then basically digs into the social history of the cover. Like he finds out who the cover was addressed to, and he describes all these different resources that you can look up, families, and just he finds out who the person was married to, and he was involved during the war, and like there's just all these different angles that he digs into. It's a really fascinating article. I always used to think postal history was really boring because I thought it was just, and I have to admit, sorry, David, I find, just researching the roots and stuff like that doesn't really, that doesn't excite me, but the social history aspects of postal history really fascinate me. Like that's how I've kind of fallen down the rabbit hole of postal history is,
Jean, you've just hit the button on the head for me. One avenue that I have found recently, I cycled up the island, landed in for a brief breather in a place called Union Bay, BC, and I was taken by the post office building. And there was a small museum next door, which interested me. I went in and I asked questions about the post office. And it was a restoration project of a building that was built as a post office in 1913 here on the island. It's a wooden structure, and it's promoted itself as being the last wooden structure operating post office. That is a building that was built as a post office and continues to function as a post office with our postal service. So it sparked an interest in me, especially related to another adjacent community not too far away called Cumberland. And it was the difference in architecture. Not only was the one in Union Bay a wooden structure and still functioning as a post office, but the one in Cumberland was quite a different structure architecturally speaking. Anyway, what you've just said interests me because it's created an avenue, and out of this discussion here this evening, I might say, is the new opportunity to research my interest, that is philately speaking, from a different point of view. That is it's architecture, it's the building, it's the connection of communities. And in the case of Vancouver Island, my particular interest is in the outdoors, it's trails, it's lumbering on Vancouver Island, which was connected by rail systems in the early part of this last century. and there's crossroads with many different avenues. So I thank you first, Jean, for that thought, Ken for your encouragement, and David especially for renewing, I think, my roots about reactivating my interest, but that the opportunity, the answer to my question early has come, I think, in that I can continue to pursue the historical avenue from a different angle, not just stamp collecting or covers or date stamps and so on, but having a look from communities, their connections in the past historically, and then maybe coming back to my particular interest of stamps and covers and postal history from maybe a different angle. Thank you very much for your insights and thoughts.
That is a nice positive comment. I think Robert McGuinness, did you want to say something?
No, I'm sorry if I know what it was. Someone asked who was a member of the APS. I just put my hand up. That's all.
Ah, okay, Joe.
I'm just going to let everyone know that we're already a half hour past when we were scheduled to end, but it has been so interesting. And do people want to continue talking, or do we want to end it soon?
Yeah. I just want to. Can I just? I just want to thank David for encouraging us to share what we've learned. The whole issue of accomplishment versus perfection. So I get trapped in that too. Is to you don't want to write or share it until you know all of it, and you can't know all of it. And the need to share with your fellow collectors and philatelists, you learn from them as you share, because then they fill in the gaps or give you different directions. That's something I've appreciated. And as a club, we try to do that as much as possible, is to share what we know. And we do that. We've been doing that through Zoom twice a month now this past year. And it's very successful. And some of us meet Thursday mornings as well. And we share what we know or what we're interested in. And as that sharing occurs, we learn more, and we encourage each other in our passion for philately. So very much appreciate that emphasis. Is we don't have to be perfect in everything we know. We just have to share our accomplishments or where we currently are in our journey. So thank you, David. That was a very good comment.
Thank you, Sid. And Sam, your comment.
Following Sid's comment, I usually, when I do a show and tell, I usually put a one list and also a Q&A, like, I don't know about this, could you help me? So I do a couple of things. I float my question, and I think everybody is right, David. I mean, you know, in real life, you have to know when good enough is good enough. It cannot be perfect. So it has to go to print as good enough. So thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, I am looking for waves from anybody who would like to add something to the discussion. David.
Yes, if you don't mind. David Webb, are you a member of the Postal History Society of Canada?
No, I'm not, David.
Well, I will put a little plug in. For $15, you can be an electronic member. For $35 a year, you can get your hard copy journals. Website has a lot of information that would be supportive to you. And we'll also put you in touch with some people on the island that do similar things to you, that have an appreciation of they're not just cancel collectors, but they're looking, as Jean's already alluded to, they're looking past the cancel into the social history, into what this was, what this town was, and et cetera, et cetera. So I can't help but put it that way to you. Thanks much, Ken, for the support on that. Ken obviously got his journal on time.
Thank you, David.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more hands waving. So Joe, I think I will pass it back to you. And I get to say to Bob and Sam and David, thank you for your presentations. To everybody who has commented, thank you all as well. This has been, I have thoroughly enjoyed this. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, also for moderating everything, and David and Sam and Bob for agreeing to do a panel. You guys were great. And most importantly, thank you for everyone for coming, and hopefully we'll see you next month as well. Remember, Stamp Talks at capex22.org, and then I'll put you right on the mailing list so we can automatically sell the I will automatically send you the registration link each month. So thanks a lot, everyone. Great day.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Joe, for running all this.